1 Maccabees, chapter 6, verse 18 through chapter 7, verse 50. About this time, they that were in the tower shut up the Israelites round about the sanctuary, and sought always their hurt, and the strengthening of the heathen. Wherefore Judas, purposing to destroy them, called all the people together to besiege them. So they came together and besieged them in the 150th year, and he made mounts for shot against them, and other engines. Howbeit certain of them that were besieged got forth, unto whom some ungodly men of Israel joined themselves. And they went unto the king, and said, How long will it be ere thou execute judgment, and avenge our brethren? We have been willing to serve thy father, and to do as he would have us, and to obey his commandments. For which cause they of our nation besiege the tower, and are alienated from us. Moreover, as many of us as they could light on, they slew, and spoiled our inheritance. Neither have they stretched out their hand against us only, but also against all their borders. And behold, this day are they besieging the tower at Jerusalem, to take it. The sanctuary also, and Basura, have they fortified. Wherefore, if thou dost not prevent them quickly, they will do greater things than these, neither shalt thou be able to rule them. Now when the king heard this, he was angry, and gathered together all his friends, and the captains of his army, and those that had charge of the horse. There came also unto him from other kingdoms, and from isles of the sea, bands of hired soldiers. So the number of his army was 100,000 footmen, and 20,000 horsemen, and 32 elephants exercised in battle. These went through Idumea, and pitched against Bethsura, which they assaulted many days, making engines. But they of Bethsura came out, and burned them with fire, and fought valiantly. Upon this, Judas removed from the tower, and pitched in Beth-Zacharias over against the king's camp. Then the king, rising very early, marched fiercely with his host toward Beth-Zacharias, where his armies made them ready to battle, and sounded the trumpets. And to the end they might provoke the elephants to fight, they showed them the blood of grapes and mulberries. Moreover, they divided the beasts among the armies, and for every elephant they appointed 1,000 men, armed with coats of mail, and with helmets of brass on their heads. And beside this, for every beast were ordained 500 horsemen of the best. These were ready at every occasion, wheresoever the beast was, and whithersoever the beast went, they went also, neither departed they from him. And upon the beasts were there strong towers of wood, which covered every one of them, and were girt fast unto them with devices. There were also upon them every 130 strong men, that fought upon them, beside the Indian that ruled him. As for the remnant of the horsemen, they set them on this side and that side at the two parts of the host, giving them signs what to do, and being harnessed all over amidst the ranks. Now when the sun shone upon the shields of gold and brass, the mountains glistered therewith, and shined like lamps of fire. So part of the king's army, being spread upon the high mountains, and part of the valleys below, they marched on safely and in order. Wherefore all that heard the noise of their multitude, and the marching of the company, and the rattling of the harness were moved, for the army was very great and mighty. Then Judas and his host drew near, and entered into battle, and there were slain of the king's army 600 men. Eleazar also, surnamed Savaran, perceiving that one of the beasts, armed with royal harness, was higher than all the rest, and supposing that the king was upon him, put himself in jeopardy, to the end he might deliver his people, and get him a perpetual name. Wherefore he ran upon him courageously through the midst of the battle, slaying on the right hand and on the left, so they were divided from him on both sides. Which done, he crept under the elephant, and thrust him under, and slew him. Whereupon the elephant fell down upon him, and there he died. Howbeit the rest of the Jews, seeing the strength of the king, and the violence of his forces, turned away from them. Then the king's army went up to Jerusalem to meet them, and the king pitched his tents against Judea, and against Mount Sion. But with them that were in Bethsura he made peace, for they came out of the city, because they had no victuals there to endure the siege, it being a year of rest to the land. So the king took Bethsura, and set a garrison there to keep it. As for the sanctuary, he besieged it many days, and set there artillery with engines and instruments to cast fire and stones, and pieces to cast darts and slings. Whereupon they also made engines against their engines, and held them battle a long season. Yet at the last their vessels being without victuals, for that it was the 7th year, and they in Judea, that were delivered from the Gentiles, had eaten up the residue of the store, there were but a few left in the sanctuary, because the famine did so prevail against them, that they were fain to disperse themselves, every man to his own place. At that time Lysias heard say that Philip, whom Antiochus the king, whiles he lived, had appointed to bring up his son Antiochus, that he might be king, was returned out of Persia and Media, and the king's host also that went with him, in that he sought to take unto him the ruling of affairs. Wherefore he went in all haste, and said to the king and the captains of the host and the company, We decay daily, and our victuals are but small, and the place we lay siege into is strong, and the affairs of the kingdom lie upon us. Now therefore, let us be friends with these men, and make peace with them, and with all the nation, and covenant with them, that they shall live after their laws, as they did before. For they are therefore displeased, and have done all these things, because we abolished their laws. So the king and the princes were content, wherefore he sent unto them to make peace, and they accepted thereof. Also the king and the princes made an oath unto them, whereupon they went out of the stronghold. Then the king entered into Mount Sion, but when he saw the strength of the place, he brake his oath that he had made, and gave commandment to pull down the wall round about. Afterward departed he in all haste, and returned unto Antiochia, where he found Philip to be master of the city. So he fought against him, and took the city by force. In the 150th year, Demetrius, the son of Seleucus, departed from Rome, and came up with a few men unto a city of the sea coast, and reigned there. And as he entered into the palace of his ancestors, so it was that his forces had taken Antiochus and Lysias to bring them unto him. Wherefore, when he knew it, he said, Let me not see their faces. So his host slew them. Now when Demetrius was set upon the throne of his kingdom, there came unto him all the wicked and ungodly men of Israel, having Alcimus, who was desirous to be a high priest, for their captain. And they accused the people to the king, saying, Judas and his brethren have slain all thy friends, and driven us out of our own land. Now therefore, send some men whom thou trustest, and let him go and see that havoc he hath made among us, and in the king's land, and let him punish them with all them that aid him. Then the king chose Maccabees, a friend of the king, who ruled beyond the river, and was a great man in the kingdom, and faithful to the king. And him he sent with that wicked Alcimus, whom he made high priest, and commanded that he should take vengeance on the children of Israel. So they departed, and came with a great power into the land of Judah, where they sent messengers to Judas and his brethren, with peaceable words deceitfully. But they gave no heed to their words, for they saw that they were come with great power. Then did there assemble unto Alcimus and Maccabees a company of scribes to require justice. Now the Assadeans were first among the children of Israel that sought peace of them. For said they, One that is a priest of the seed of Aaron is come with this army, and he will do us no wrong. So he spake unto them peaceably, and sware unto them, saying, We will procure the harm neither of you nor your friends. Whereupon they believed him. Howbeit he took of them 60 men, and slew them in one day, according to the words which he wrote. The flesh of thy saints have they cast out, and their blood have they shed round about Jerusalem, and there was none to bury them. Wherefore the fear and dread of them all fell upon all the people, who said, There is neither truth nor righteousness in them, for they have broken the covenant and oath that they made. After this removed Maccabees from Jerusalem, and pitched his tents in Bezeth, where he sent and took many of the men that had forsaken him, and certain of the people also, and when he had slain them, he cast them into the great pit. Then committed he the country to Alcimus, and left with him a power to aid him. So Maccabees went to the king. But Alcimus contended for the high priesthood, and unto him resorted all such as troubled the people, who, after they had gotten the land of Judah into their power, did much hurt in Israel. Now when Judas saw all the mischief that Alcimus and his company had done among the Israelites, even above the heathen, he went out into all the coasts of Judea round about, and took vengeance of them that had revolted from him, so that they durst no more go forth into the country. On the other side, when Alcimus saw that Judas and his company had gotten the upper hand, and knew that he was not able to abide their force, he went again to the king, and said evil things against them. Then the king sent Nicanor, one of his honorable princes, a man that bare deadly hate unto Israel, with commandment to destroy the people. So Nicanor came to Jerusalem with a great force, and sent unto Judas and his brethren deceitfully with friendly words, saying, Let there be no battle between me and you. I will come with a few men, that I may see you in peace. He came therefore to Judas, and they saluted one another peaceably. Howbeit the enemies were prepared to take away Judas by violence, which thing, after it was known to Judas, to wit, that he came unto him with deceit, he was sore afraid of him, and would see his face no more. Nicanor also, when he saw that his counsel was discovered, went out to fight against Judas beside Caphar Salama, and there were slain of Nicanor's side about 5,000 men, and the rest fled into the city of David. After this went Nicanor up to Mount Sion, and there came out of the sanctuary certain of the priests and certain of the elders of the people to salute him peaceably, and to show him the burnt sacrifice that was offered for the king. But he mocked them, and laughed at them, and abused them shamefully, and spake proudly, and sware in his wrath, saying, Unless Judas and his host be now delivered into my hands, if ever I come again into safety, I will burn up this house. And with that he went out in a great rage. Then the priests entered in, and stood before the altar in the temple, weeping, and saying, Thou, O Lord, didst choose this house to be called by thy name, and to be a house of prayer and petition for thy people. Be avenged of this man and his hosts, and let them fall by the sword. Remember their blasphemies, and suffer them not to continue any longer. So Nicanor went out of Jerusalem, and pitched his tents in Bethhoron, where a host out of Syria met him. But Judas pitched in Adassa with 3,000 men, and there he prayed, saying, O Lord, when they that were sent from the king of the Assyrians blasphemed, thine angel went out, and smote 184,500 of them. Even so, destroy thou this host before us this day, that the rest may know that he hath spoken blasphemously against thy sanctuary, and judge thou him according to his wickedness. So the 13th day of the month Adar, the host joined battle. But Nicanor's host was discomfited, and he himself was first slain in battle. Now when Nicanor's host saw that he was slain, they cast away their weapons, and fled. Then they pursued after them a day's journey, from Adassa unto Gazera, sounding an alarm after them with their trumpets. Whereupon they came forth out of all the towns of Judea round about, and closed them in. So that they, turning back upon them that pursued them, were all slain with the sword, and not one of them was left. Afterwards they took the spoils and the prey, and smote off Nicanor's head, and his right hand, which he stretched out so proudly, and brought them away, and hanged them up toward Jerusalem. For this cause the people rejoiced greatly, and kept that day as a day of great gladness. Moreover, they ordained to keep yearly this day, being the 13th of Adar. Thus the land of Judah was in rest a little while. 4th Maccabees, chapter 12. When he too had undergone blessed martyrdom, and died in the cauldron into which he had been thrown, the 7th, the youngest of all, came forward, whom the tyrant pitying, though he had been dreadfully reproached by his brethren, seeing him already encompassed with chains, had him brought nearer, and endeavored to counsel him, saying, Thou seest the end of the madness of thy brethren, for they have died in torture through disobedience. And you, if disobedient, have been miserably tormented, will yourself perish prematurely. But if you obey, you shall be my friend, and have a charge over the affairs of the kingdom. And having thus exhorted him, he sent for the mother of the boy, that, by condoling with her for the loss of many sons, he might incline her, through the hope of safety, to render the survivor obedient. And he, after his mother had urged him on in the Hebrew tongue, as we shall soon relate, says, Release me, that I may speak to the king and all his friends. And they, rejoicing exceedingly at the promise of the youth, quickly let him go. And he, running up to the pans, said, Impious tyrant, and most blasphemous man, wert thou not ashamed, having received prosperity and a kingdom from God, to slay his servants, and to rack the doers of godliness? Wherefore, the divine vengeance is reserving you for eternal fire and torments, which shall cling to you for all time. Wert thou not ashamed, man, as thou art, yet most savage, to cut out the tongues of men of like feeling and origin, having thus abused to torture them? But they, bravely dying, fulfilled their religion toward God. But thou shalt groan according to thy deserts, for having slain without cause the champions of virtue. Wherefore, he continued, I myself, being about to die, will not forsake the testimony of my brethren. And I call upon the God of my fathers to be merciful to my race. But thee, both living and dead, he will punish. Thus, having prayed, he hurled himself into the pans, and so expired. The Acts of the Apostles, chapter 17, verses 16 through 34. Now while Paul waited for them at Athens, his spirit was stirred in him, when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry. Therefore disputed he in the synagogue with the Jews, and with the devout persons, and in the market daily with them that met with him. Then certain philosophers of the Epicureans, of the Stoics, encountered him, And some said, What will this babbler say? Others some, He seemeth to be a setter forth of strange gods, because he preached unto them Jesus and the resurrection. They took him, and brought him unto the Areopagus, saying, May we know what this new doctrine whereof thou speakest is? For thou bringest certain strange things to our ears. We would know therefore what these things mean. For all the Athenians and strangers which were there spent their time in nothing else, but either to tell or to hear some new thing. Then Paul stood in the midst of Mars' hill, and said, Ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious. For as I passed by, and beheld your devotions, I found an altar with this inscription, To the unknown God. Whom therefore you ignorantly worship, him I declare unto you. God that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands. Neither is worshipped with men's hands, as though he needed anything, seeing he giveth to all life, and breath, and all things. And hath made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on all the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed, and the bounds of their habitation, that they should seek the Lord, if haply they might feel after him, and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. For in him we live, and move, and have our being, as certain also of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring. For as much then as we are the offspring of God, we ought not to think that the Godhead is like unto gold, or silver, or stone, graven by art and man's device. And the times of this ignorance God winked at, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. Because he hath appointed a day in which he will judge the world in righteousness, by that man whom he hath ordained, whereof he hath given assurance unto all men, in that he hath raised him from the dead. And when they heard of the resurrection of the dead, some mocked, and others said, We will hear thee again of this matter. So Paul departed from among them. Howbeit certain men clave unto him, and believed, among the which was Dionysius the Areopagite, and a woman named Damaris, and others with them.